On today's episode of You Get What You Vote For. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Chicago residents yet again protesting against the migrants flooding into their city, this time because they're taking over a space that is reserved for a youth football team. Now, this is not something new when you're talking about the migrants. They come into a place and they're going to take it over. Okay, you like your healthcare facility, you like your hospital, you like your apartment building, you like your hotel, you like your airport, perhaps. We're going to take all that over and just plop down right here. But some tell me from the left, they say, oh, well, they're asylum seekers and they need somewhere to be. Well, we got plenty of homeless and veterans and other people that need these spaces who are law-abiding American citizens. They're not over here illegally. They're not over here as non-citizens. I think citizens should have rights before non-citizens. Maybe that's just me. Now, before I get into the video about the Chicago youth football team specifically, here's a video you might not have seen from a few days ago of a veteran in New York City, Korean War veteran, who was kicked out of his assisted living facility because migrants needed to use it. And if you want to see this video in full, link as always will be in the description box. If you're on IG, visit a link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll this.
It was very disgraceful what they did to the people in Island Shores. They gave us time to get out, but they never said when. And they never said they were going to get us out. And then one day, there's a thing on the board, a notice on the board. You got to be out by March 15th. I think that gave us like a month and a half to find out where we're going to go.
By the way, this man is 95 years old. 95 years old.
I thought my suitcases were going to be on the curb because I'm not that fast. If it wasn't for my daughter, they would have been on the curb. But that's what it happened, and that was it. I said, no, you're not moving me. And they said, yes, we are. And everything was done behind closed doors. Yeah. And we didn't have a chance to actually make any attempt to stop them because there wasn't enough time.
Now, again, I think we should put law-abiding U.S. citizens ahead of these so-called migrants. Don't you think? Don't you think? Especially 95-year-old war veterans? Just maybe. I mean, it's just a thought, right? Now, remember I said they're also taking over the airport. Here's an article about that. Chicago is keeping hundreds of migrants at airports while waiting on shelters and tents. So while they're waiting to come into your community, take over your facilities that may be kind of used, fully occupied, abandoned, doesn't really matter. While they're waiting to do that, they're going to be just hanging out at the airport. So if you're going to Chicago O'Hare for whatever the reason is, maybe you're going to Chicago for a particular purpose, maybe you have a connecting flight out of Chicago O'Hare, you're going to see them just hanging out. Now, try going to those bathrooms and seeing what condition they're in. I know airports have pretty good staff that are able to attend to the restrooms, but when you have hundreds of migrants living in the airport, it might be a little bit different story. And then my question is, if they're living at the airport, who's feeding them? Where's all that money coming from? I'm sure some of that money could go toward the actual community of people that live in Chicago, but different story, I digress. Let's get into the video of the youth football team. You see young guys right here with the jerseys on and everything else who are being kicked out of their facility, of their area because of the so-called migrants. Now, I suppose what's happening here is there's some kind of city council meeting or something like that. and they're bringing in the kids to show like, hey, these are going to be the kids that you're affecting by this policy of the migrants coming in. Okay, that's going to be the issue here. So people are really upset. I mean, of course, right? If kids are out here playing football, and a lot of times the athletics, this keeps kids out of trouble. You're in Chicago, so it's like, hey, we're trying to do something right with these kids, putting them in football, getting some kind of athletic, and now you're taking it away because of the migrants. They need their space. So what's really going on? However, there is a solution to this, and we're going to talk about that in just one moment. Now, let me see. I'm going to just read this caption right here from Graham Allen. It says, "This sickens me. The Chicago youth football program was kicked out of their neighborhood field house so it can become a shelter for illegal migrants, illegal aliens. The players and over 600 residents showed up to protest. If only they didn't vote for a Democrat in the last election." And that right there, my friends, is the problem. Okay, we're voting for the same people over and over again. Now, Chicago, we know that they often protest these things with the migrants. We know that there have been a lot of different protests going on. However, when you keep voting for Brandon Johnson, J.B. Pritzker, Joe Biden at a 90, 95, nearly 100% rate, you're going to get this. You can protest, and I understand the frustration. You're right to be frustrated at what's happening. However, you have to understand what you did before this. You got to understand the events that led up to this particular situation. I hope that all the protests and all the city council meetings and everything else that's been happening in Chicago as a result of the so-called migrant crisis will wake people up to say that we can't do this anymore. We can't keep voting for Lori Lightfoot, Brandon Johnson, J.B. Pritzker, Joe Biden, and all the other Democrats that have been voting for the past 50, 70, 100 years. This same pattern can't continue. And that's going to be the same way as I close in every city across the nation. If you have problems with crime, the migrant crisis, and other things, well, try different leadership. Because really, a lot of what's going on, it's a policy issue. I covered a story in Washington, D.C., where they had a 117% increase in carjackings with guns, armed carjackings, 117% increase year to date. That is a policy thing. All the other 40% almost increase in homicide, these are policy issues that can only be solved with people that are going to put in different policies. If you're voting for the same guys to do the same thing, you're going to get the same results. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your take on what's happening in places like New York City, Chicago, anywhere where they have a migrant crisis, where they have Democratic leadership? I mean, what is the solution? I think the solution is obvious. Having protests and city council meetings and whatnot, being offended and being upset, that's cool. That's great. But what are you going to do to solve it? Let's get down to the solution rather than being furious over the problem. Whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.